interview, the things that we discussed about is that database design. Then also there is a unified modeling language UML and software processes. The waterfall model, um, iterative model, agile. When it comes to agile, you have Scrum, you have test driven. Some of them, they look like different, but they may be same. Or you follow a process and you can call, you can tell to someone saying that I'm following TDD, test driven development, or to someone else I'm following Scrum model, or you're following extreme programming. You can say, but all these things have a lot of commonality, and just by perspective of it you have a different naming most of the cases. Okay. And some people are actually abuse the words. I say that I mean, this is actually a correct word, because uh, they say they will have a daily one meeting for 10-15 minutes and they say we are following Scrum. That's actually not true. Scrum is an important thing. Scrum actually means that you deliver an iterative approach, and you do requirement analysis. I actually like, instead of me talking about it, I'll actually do something. Scrum in less than in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. There's one nice video on the YouTube.
Hi, this is me. My name is Hamid Chujai, and I've been involved with a number of software development projects over the years at a number of different companies, and I've come to recognize Scrum as one of the best agile development practices in use today. In this fast-paced video, I want to show you why Scrum is so great.
Can you hear the voice? It may be low, right?
10 minutes. I'll cover all the core Scrum concepts like product backlogs, team roles, sprints, burn-down charts, and more. So get ready to be bombarded with information. Let's say this is the product we want to build. For this product, we get all kinds of feature requests from users, customers, executives, or even other team members. In Scrum, the collection of all these features is called the product backlog. Another way to think of the product backlog is to think of it as a wish list of all the things that would make this product great. Once we have our wish list, or the product backlog, we need to start planning which specific features we're going to put into a particular release of our product. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's back up a bit. To build this product, we need to have one or more people in our team who are going to play a variety of roles. I'm done.
So this is a video, nice video. You can pretty much follow this. If and it's actually 10 minutes, or you spend a few hours or half a day or one day in understanding this 10 minutes video. Watch this a number of times and try to read literature around it, and you will have a good idea about Scrum. Okay. So then you have this video. This video is very simple and accurate, and gives you correct understanding. So you can pretty much do this. So and on the topics we did discuss about the struts and web applications. There are very lot of other things. So there is one more thing that you need to know. We discussed about JUnit, so you need to practice little bit, and you need to talk about JUnit, why you need to have JUnit, and there are build tools, Ant and Maven. You need to learn something about Ant tools as well. Ant, it will be good if you know. Okay, it will be good if you know. And see the questions. Let us look at this particular question number 12. How would you go about designing a web application where the business tier is on a separate mission from presentation tier? The business tier should talk to two different databases, and your design should point out to the design different design patterns. This is a bit complex question, and especially when you're talking about the modules lying in a different mission. In the sense, now we know that the tiers, the presentation tier, business tier, data access tier, and database. If you look at in the web application, you have other than the databases, REST is can be in the same mission, in the same application. And now we have in our sample applications database also in the same mission, but the database generally lies in a different mission altogether, right? And you give the IP address in your connection string URL. Now we say localhost, but you ideally give the particular database machine IP address. So this particular question is about actually if is it possible to have presentation layer in one particular um, server, and maybe the business tier in a separate machine. Okay, so that is actually possible when you use EJB or even Spring remoting. EJB means enterprise Java beans. So where you expose only the business logic part alone as EJB, and you can pretty much deploy that in a Java application server. And from web application, you can invoke the EJB that is actually hosted on a different machine altogether, and that's how you can separate. And when you're looking at um, uh, talking to different databases, how can we do this? Talking to different databases, so that just means that you need to use different JDBC connections. If you are talking about with our experience, whatever we covered in the this thing, there is also a kind of concept called data source, where you can configure your application in the web.xml. um, Data source configuration in web.xml, and you can use that particular thing. So there is in web.xml. Okay. I must do this. This is more a question than an answer. Configuring data source. Yeah, this one is a valid one. Configuring data source. Come on. Everyone try to make money out of their stuff. So see here, this there is something called okay, type. Then the JNDA path. Okay, will this work? I need to try it out, but what you can do is you can configure your data source, see, as a resource in the web.xml, or even data source itself should be an element. So you need to know, that kind of thing. If you have time, you can pretty much practice that there. And actually, there is one more thing. There is something called resource pooling or connection pooling, and that particular thing actually is an important thing concept. Data source. Let me see if I have a better links. Template is here. This is old one, but still it should give us some understanding. When you configure the resource definition part, reference part, there is basically I wanted to talk about the connection pooling part. See, with the database, did I speak about connection pooling earlier, Jimmy?
No.
No, okay. So the connection pooling is nothing but the if you're talking to database, what happens is you have your DB connection, establishing a connection and closing a connection, that we know, right? The connection driver manager that get connection will open a connection, give the connection to us, and then you have contact close to close the connection. These two operations are they are bit intensive, so they take a lot of resource consuming. Open and close the connection for every query means opening and closing the connection itself will take say your network bandwidth and system resources from your application server, that is your Tomcat, as well as on the database side. So there is no meaning to actually open a connection, close a connection for every SQL unit to execute. What you can do is open few connections. Okay, say suppose I have 5 connections, and in your server you are having some players or users, employees, if Office Web. Then when they come and try to log in, then not every second everyone will log in. They log in, and they do something else. And most of the cases, people will be viewing in the browser and trying to understand or view their data. They'll not be testing your application, intensively with the functionality, right? So they will actually use the application for their benefit. So what happens is people will be, they may be reading some data and they may be acting on it. They may click next button or something like that. So there is always time. So so if there are 100 users to the system parallelly logged into the system, but the database queries you may be getting per second, it may be hardly 1 to 5. Maybe that most of the people may not do DB related stuff every second, so they may be reading the data, something like that. So and what you can really do is open the connection and store that in some map or something like that, okay, or list, okay, and use when you need connection, you can the connection pooling concept is that reuse the connection, don't close the connection, okay, store the reference somewhere, and use it multiple times. Don't close it until you really say that you don't have any customer, any employee logging to our Office Web application. Then there's no meaning holding the DB connection. So what you do is you close the connection. Next time when you really need a connection, you open a connection. But when the employee, say suppose I logged in and I want to view my details, and in that process you may need to execute 2-3 queries for me. Fine, I logged out. I click log out button in the application, and then some other user comes in. And what you can do is, if this is just in the simplest scenario, use the same connection object. Use the same connection object. Store it somewhere and reuse it. That's about connection pooling. And the connection pooling related, if you explore more and see the configuration and all, how many connections you need to open in the beginning. And suppose if there are more users and you don't, say suppose if we started with 5 database connections, initially we had 5 connections and then try to use the 5 connections, right? And then you have more users and 5 is not sufficient. Then you need to increment your pool. Pool is nothing but available database connections. So maybe simplest way to implement is that create an array list, store a static array list somewhere, and put all the open connections into that particular thing. And whenever someone is using it, remove from the list and maybe store in another list, and say that this connection is in use, okay. So when the moment other guy done with this connection use, then you push it back to the initial the free pool list. So you can reuse the connections, and this is the concept behind connection pooling. So you will have interesting concept about connection pooling. Connection pooling is it's not really this is okay. This is with JNDI, but you can pretty much implement that with a regular web application. Okay, Java, sorry, Tomcat data source, and let me see. So that's when you have, let me see how this guy, okay, this guy has connection pool. There are some configurations. This is nice, so you can pretty much explore this, okay. This is with the Tomcat only, so you can pretty much explore this. He has given almost complete stuff related to on the Tomcat, or you can pretty much try to look at the Tomcat 6 version. Okay, so let me move on to next topic. Then the CVS or SVN. CVS we did not discuss. CVS is a concurrent versioning system, but what we discussed is SVN, sub versioning system. CVS is a older or earlier. Even people use now CVS, but it has some issues, and SVN actually solve those issues. So you can pretty much talk about if someone is asking you question about version control system or source configuration system, SCM, source configuration system. You can say that I used SVN, and then if there are questions on it, how do you use it? There is a repository, you check out the code, you check in the code, and sometimes there will be conflicts, and in that case you resolve those conflicts manually, or you update your code to latest version on the SVN server. These things you are aware of it. We are pretty much used from the beginning. So that's something that you need to know. Then log4j log4j is a logging framework. It's a very simple framework. In our application, you can pretty much configure. As system is running. So suppose a system is running, I want to log some of the data, some of the details to write. When user is logging in, or when user is clicking something, I want to actually capture what he is actually doing into a file. Maybe that for a debugging purpose, most of the cases, maybe that in your website there is a customer who logs in and tries to do something and it doesn't work, or it is not working as he is expecting, and he may call the customer care and he may say that your application is not working, and he may shout at you. Then what you need to do is, generally companies have the support has an hierarchy. So there are level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, or something like that. Okay. First level is that customer care, the person taking the call, he may only know that what he needs to do. If say suppose if there is a new customer, he want to use the system he called, the level 1 support is pretty much sufficient for them. Level 1 support means that customer care agent knows what the site is and where the login button is. He may say that open this www.abc.com website, and then can you go to that top right corner, and there is small red icon called login, and you click that, something like that. He can explain that, but that is a level 1. And next level is that if the problem persists, if there is something advanced, he says that I want to see the transaction details for last 2 years, and that CS agent may not know. He may pass it to his boss or next level, and that guy may say that no, it is not possible to view the 6 months 2 years transaction at once, and you may need to filter. First, our site supports only 6 months transactions, so you do 4 different reports giving different from and to dates, something like that. So, and then it says there is really some problem, it really goes to database, application side. There will be maintenance team, and those guys will be taking care of the application. So when there is a complaint that come to us, say that I'm not able to log in. Okay, suppose the customer care guy will not understand what it means, so it will come to the level 4 guy who will be the developer supporting the application, and he has to look at the log files. There should be some way to trace it out. I can't go to the customer place and then figure out why he is not able to log in. So you say that you look at the log file. So log4j is an important topic. Okay, you need to experience that as well. This again log4j. You have this is again from Apache, and very interesting framework. You need to have idea about this particular framework as well. Do you really need to know mandatorily? I say that this log4j is a very common thing. As much as you know about Java, about its class and object, this is also one important thing, and you need to know it is equally important. And just knowing that okay, there is a log4j and how it really works, that is sufficient. There is nothing more than that there. Then service-oriented architecture, you may know about web services. I'll try to spend some time, but you can pretty much go on. I did add a book on the web services using Access API. You can read that PDF file and from the shared books list. And see the approaches I talked about, and dependency injection, this is the Spring one that I talked about. Annotations, some of them we know, and still there is a lot of things, and there are a lot of things in the Spring annotations, not just the Spring, but Hibernate itself. We looked at annotations, right? The way we generated the beans. So there are questions that are actually on a individual basis. The classification. If you look at this particular file, there are a lot of classification. See, language fundamentals, then performance issues, specification fundamentals. Specification fundamentals means how they actually define the specifications for the Java. Then design patterns also something, we actually looked at some of the design patterns. We know the singleton design pattern, we did discuss about it, and all of you have implemented it. And model view controller is a design pattern related to web applications. Also, I think DAO, data access object, is one design pattern. Then DTO, data transfer object, some of them are very common. We have been using some of them. We have been using some of the design patterns, but there are more design patterns. And I'll try to spend time and explaining some of the design patterns. Okay, design patterns is a bit confusing thing most of the cases, and you need to actually prepare for any interview. You need to have some handout. I think I have some PDF, small PDF file on the design patterns, or you can even get from the internet. A quick refresher. You need to have a few page, say suppose 5 to 10 pages handout kind of thing, which you can use. You don't have time, before the interview to read everything on the internet, or read a big book on the design patterns. So you need to have a quick handout that will actually, and quick reference actually, like, so that you can refer anytime. And many times you get confused, but that does not mean that you should not prepare. So in the interview, you can say, if you know design pattern, do you know any design pattern? You say that whatever design patterns you know properly. And just because you know some name, and if you say the name, and by mistake, if you ask questions from that particular design pattern, and you are not able to answer, that's a perfect way of ruining your interview. In the interview, one basic rule is only talk about what you know, and take the interviewer towards your area. So you are real expert in, say, suppose threads, and when you are explaining, you drag him into threads. There's interviewing. Attending an interview is a skill. Okay, facing an interview is a skill. I'll tell you a simple example that I often say as a joke to many people in the training. Say suppose I'm a student. Say if I'm a student, I know that how car works, and I need to attend. In the exam, there's a question about aeroplane. There's a question about aeroplane, and what I prepared is car. So, but I know that aeroplane flies, and you can sit in the aeroplane. So I say, I start with an answer sign, something like, okay, I went to airport, I bought a ticket, or if you know that you need to buy a ticket, and or I may not know that process. So I say that, I went to the airport. I get onto that, um, aeroplane, and then I looked from the window, I saw a car, and then start explaining about the car. But if you do that in an innovative way, if you do this particular thing in an innovative way, you can actually distract the interviewer and actually take him to your own area. That's one particular thing, but it is not fact that you can do that in every interview, but often you can actually drag interviewer to your own way, strong areas, and then let him ask questions about threats. You talk about, or maybe that, IO operations, or servlets, or JSP, or JDBC, and let him ask questions from the area that you are very strong in. And that's actually like, you get that in a due course of time, and it is not, and sometimes it may not work out as well, but that's something that you should be aware of it. When you are answering questions, maybe that you paraphrase some of the things that you are very confident, and don't use any of the technical word, or anything that you don't know. Try to minimize the usage of words. Suppose if I don't know anything about JNDI, and if there is a question about connection pooling, and you thought, in the JNDI you configure something like that, if you just talk about that, you may have problem. So you explain the answer from the areas that you are really strong at. right? There's a good classification around it in this book, and you can start see the from the beginning. So some of the very basic questions. You language I mean, why do you need to use Java? These things you can prepare on your own. Because this is object oriented, and there is platform independent. And why is it is platform independent? Why is Java platform independent? Anyone knows the answer? Jimmy? Java is a platform independent
You
language.
can declare the,
Okay, you can please go ahead.
you can declare
It
the,
generates the when we compile the code, it generates the object code which works on Java virtual machine.
Okay.
So
So continue.
yeah, so the compiled code can whatever the OS we are using. If we have Java virtual machine, the compiled code can run on
Right.
any machine.
Perfect. That's what that you write the code and compile the output of you look at C programming. If you look at C programming, then you are output is, say, if I write hello world, hello, okay, hello.c, then the output is hello.exe in the Windows, or in Linux it may be hello.o or hello.out, okay. And I mean the exe file, you take it to Linux, it will not work, or Unix it will not work, or so in case of Java, what happens is the output is a byte code. Output is byte code, and that is intermediate code. It is not platform dependent. It is not platform dependent. So it is a generic code, and every operating system, you need to have operating system specific JVM. If JDK, whatever we are downloading, that only works in Linux. Okay, that is not platform dependent. Sorry, that is not platform independent. JDK that you have is platform dependent. For Linux, I need to have one JDK. For Apple, I mean, and have different JDK. For Windows, I have different JDK. Unix, you may have different JDK. Every operating system will have a different JDK or JVM. JDK is for more from a development perspective. So JVM is JRE is for running your applications. So that is actually not platform independent. JRE is not platform independent, but JDK, the Java code is. So for each, so how do we achieve the platform independency? Java generates byte code that is intermediate, not specific to any platform, and in every platform you have the platform specific JRA that can run this intermediate code. That's how you can make achieve the platform independence. You need to know the other part as well. We say that the class file can run in any operating system. That is perfect, correct. But to explain that, because the every operating system has, or Java and Oracle has now, or like there are providers who wrote JRE for every operating system, every platform that and so that it works, wherever you have a JRE, your Java code works there. So that's the thing. Okay, so look at the answer as well. Java Virtual Machine, JVM is a software that can be ported onto various hardware platforms. Bytecodes are machine language of the JVM. Bytecodes are specific to, I mean, it's an intermediate code that can be understood by JVM. And JVM is nothing but when I say Java space your program name, the class name, and it runs, right? So the Java command is nothing but JVM. And that comes with JRE, Java Runtime Environment. So there are differences, some of them like, the next question is C++ and Java. So C++ is, it has, say it has pointers, and Java is not. And there are other list of differences, so you can have that. And next question, look at this, what are the usages of Java package? Why do we need Java package structures? Jimmy, why do we need Java packages?
to organize the classes into different in a way so we can implement easy.
To organize the classes, that's perfect. But actually, one more benefit of this is to resolve naming conflicts. To resolve naming conflicts. Suppose if I have, I wrote something called connection manager, JDBC connection manager, and it may happen that incidentally someone else also named a class with the same name. Okay, and if I'm giving my jar file to if I'm selling my jar file, if some other guy also selling a different jar file, and both of them having JDBC connection manager, then you have problem. The user will have difficulty in using this. So when we introduce package structure, the naming conflicts are resolved, because the user will pretty much, he can always use that com.officeweb.dao.jdbc connection manager, and that means that he will use my code, or he may use some other code, and then you need to specify the package name, complete package name. So that helps to organize our code. So the package structure always helps to organize our code within the project, as well as to resolve the naming conflicts within the project, as well as outside the project. Then okay, this is an important thing. Look at this, the class loader. Class loaders are class loader is nothing but there is a when you run your application, there are multiple steps happen. There is something called class loader that reads the class, that reads the .dot class file from the class path and loads into the memory. And you can prepare, there are this question, you have the explanation here. Please prepare on this, and because I want to cover more questions. So it's about loading your class into the memory, and that there is a hierarchical fashion there. There is it takes some time for me to explain, but what you do is you prepare this and you look at what is class loader in the internet. This is an important thing and the fundamental part. You do have a lot of explanation here, but then so what do you need to do? Run a Java class with a main method in a package. Oh, okay. So like, what actually is a class path? What is a class path? Anyone can volunteer. What is a class path? Why do we need class path? Jimmy?
Link all the external
Link all the external
jars.
It's actually, yeah, I mean, you're correct. That is the experience that we had. Like the way you have path variable, in your computer, you want to run, anything in the command prompt. If that particular thing, say you have your MySQL bin directory added to the path variable, then you type MySQL anywhere in the command prompt. You may be typing that in the D drive, C drive, E drive, or wherever you execute, it will work, because path variable contains the various paths in your system and where it has to look at when you type a command. So similarly, class path will contain the information, or the jar files containing the .dot class files. So when you use it, when you type some class, when you compile it, the class path, if you set it properly, it will compile if the whatever class you are using is there in the class path. So that is one important thing. So your answer is almost correct. What is the difference between constructor and regular method? We did discuss about these things in the beginning. Okay, I will not answer this. This is a simple thing. You are going to say something, Nilima?
No, just I'm saying constructor should have the name as class name.
Name as class name, and it does not return anything. Right? And why? Why is that constructor does not return anything? Because constructor cannot, constructor is the way they specify, as per the specification, it does not return anything. You say that your scope, say public space, then your class name, and that becomes your constructor, as a method name. Use the same name as the class for your method, and you don't specify anything for the return type, not even void. The reason is that your constructor cannot return something else other than the object that you are creating, the class. So I write hello world, and if I write hello world constructor, there is no way it can return some other world, it will return only hello world, right? So it is the hard coded thing. So there is no meaning to return anything or to say even void. It does not mean anything. So that's the reason why they removed that particular part, return type part, from the specification itself. When they designed Java, when they thought about the constructor, they fine, you don't need any return type for that particular constructor method. So that's how you don't have it. Then people may ask you questions about object-oriented concepts, abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance. We did discuss about that elaborately in the beginning, and we implemented as we were discussing. We implemented the initial classes. You wrote a class, you created an object. We wrote interface. We wrote inheritance. Multi-level, multi-level. That is again one question. Does Java support multiple inheritance?
No.
For the class, no. For interface, yes. For class, no. Because I cannot inherit, I cannot extend multiple classes. I can only extend one single class. And for interface, I can write, any number of interfaces. That is not a problem. I can implement any number of interfaces separated by comma. Hello world implements, A, B, C, comma, C, D, E, F, K, L, M, if assuming they are interfaces. So you can have any number of interfaces. Then, okay, there is one interesting thing here. You see here, is A and has A. Is A relationship, is A means inheritance. Is A means inheritance. So say suppose I have a class called fruit, and then if I have a class called banana, banana is a fruit, right? Banana is a fruit. So when I extend my class, say suppose I create a class called fruit, and then I wrote another class called banana. Say class banana extends fruit, and it makes sense, right? So that this is called is a relationship. This is called is a relationship, and it may happen that you in many cases what you do is look at this particular class for the bathroom example. Say in any house you have a bathroom, so you have a bathroom as an object. In the class level, you see here you have an object. So this is called has a relationship. This is called has a relationship. There is one use of inheritance. One use of inheritance is reusability, and actually to solve reusability there are two ways to implement it. One is inheritance, other one is has a relationship. If I want to use the same code in multiple classes, what I can do is write a class and use that class, create object for this particular class in n number of other classes where you want to write, right? So you need to have understanding about what is A and has A. Is A is inheritance. Has A means we have a variable in the class and use it. And there is interesting stuff here. Aggregation and composition. This is again an interesting interview question. When you're talking about has a relationship, when you're talking about has a relationship, or this is also called, there are other words here is aggregation and composition. Aggregation and composition, the two things are important. Aggregation is an association, read the text, is an association in which one class belongs to a collection. Okay. And I mean, in the sense, it's the individual item can exist. Say, I have a box of pencils. I have a box of pencils. Now, if I remove the box, then pencil exists on its own. Pencil exists on its own. So that means that this is only plain aggregation. And composition means what example I can give? Okay, what example he gave? Okay, an order is a whole item and line items are parts. Alright. So suppose I go to a shopping mall and when I buy something, I buy multiple items suppose. Then what I get an invoice bill and that will have n number of line items. For each line item represents one particular, say I buy a soap and I buy say some washing soap and there are three of them, some particular brand. Okay, so that item is one, and then maybe you buy something else, shampoo, and you have a number of line items in the bill. Then suppose if you don't, I mean, if there is no bill, there is no meaning for the line item, right? There is no meaning for the line item. Say I'm buying some Head and Shoulder shampoo, two bottles, and this line has no meaning if that is not there in a bill. See, both of them are almost about the same purpose. I talk about, or maybe let me talk about that using a paintbrush. When I have a bill, sorry, your bill actually contains, say, bill. What I will have one, say, shampoo, Head and Shoulder, shampoo. Say 2, quantity is 2, and say suppose $10 is, so $20 is the total price. Okay, so now in the bill, when I compare this relationship, there are three items here. One is, this is the, let me say this is A, and first here line item such as, say for me this line item is B, and each line item has the product name. Okay, so that I call this is C. Okay, C means the product. Okay, so B means line item. Okay, so in this case, so there's a bill, and I have, you may have some other items as well. 3. Now let us take the example from here. So your bill has multiple line items. Now if you cancel the bill, what will happen to the fate of the line item? There is no meaning for it, right? If you cancel your purchase, even if the bill has the line item has no meaning. Can you get me? Can someone respond? Like, are you able to understand this particular concept? Okay, so that's nothing but that is called composition. Composition means it's a complete part of it, and without the container, that part has no meaning at all. It has no existence at all. Line item without a bill or invoice, then line item has no meaning at all. That dependency is composition. Now let us look at within the line item. Within the line item, you have product. Now if I say that B, what I'm saying is here the variable B means line item. Now the relationship between B and C. C is product. That in this case Head and Shoulder. Now the line item and the product, the relationship is loose relationship. Meaning without, if you don't have a line item, doesn't mean that the product is not there in your shop. If I don't buy, you will take it again, put it in some rack, the corresponding rack, and it will be there, right? So line item and product, the relationship is it's more of an aggregation. Meaning aggregation means that aggregation and composition means same thing. You contain, it's more about the content relationship, but how strong is the relationship is that is defined by aggregation or composition. Composition means that individual part cannot exist without container. Whereas in aggregation, individual parts can exist without container. Line item is the container here, and line item and product can exist independently. There is no must relationship between them. If you cancel the line item, product will be there still. But if you cancel a bill, line item will not be there. There is no meaning for line item if you cancel a bill. if you cancel your purchase and or invoice, right? That is the difference between this composition and aggregation. It is not guaranteed that people will ask this question, but when they ask, often, at least I felt, a bit confused, and it's very easy that, you give different meaning, for composition and aggregation, though they are plain English words, but explaining in your Java language or in your programming language is an important concept. Okay, and often you may answer, saying that aggregation is the second, different definitions, vice versa. Aggregation, you may give the actual meaning of composition, and for composition, you may give aggregation meaning. Now, polymorphism, you are experts on polymorphism. We really played with polymorphism, so I'll skip that part, but don't skip that part yourself, okay? You go through these questions thoroughly. You go through these questions thoroughly and prepare on the answers. See this actually like what is it? No multiple inheritance in Java. See this is about multiple inheritance for Java classes, but the same thing is not true in case of interfaces. You can use multiple inheritance. Also, there will be questions about abstract class, interface, and class, and there may be, if you are lucky enough, there may be questions on the inner classes. Inner classes, how many type of inner classes you have, and a lot of details about it. We have tried inner classes to the possible extent. Now, method overloading and, if you say polymorphism, overloading and overriding, the difference between this also you are aware of it. What is the difference between overloading and overriding, Nilima?
Overriding is when we inherit an abstract class, we should override the methods in that abstract class in the present class. And overloading is we use that in polymorphism. Say two methods with the same name with different arguments.
Exactly, you're correct. But the first part, it need not be just abstract class. It could be anything. It could be an existing class where you can override the definition of the class, class method. It need not, the parent need not be abstract class. It could be abstract class. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So both of them are actually for polymorphism. Both of them are for polymorphism. But in case of overriding, your method name is and arguments, everything is same, both the parent and the child. In case of overloading, it is not the case. Overloading, it is not the case. You can, the method name is same, but the number of parameters or the parameter types differ, right? So overriding, if you're talking about overriding, inheritance is a must. If you're talking about overriding, inheritance is a must. That's how you redefine that, overriding. And in case of overloading, you don't need inheritance, right? And if you're lucky enough, you may get some interesting questions like, within the collections. Say, I guarantee that I did not really cover every topic that exists in the world on the Java. So I missed some of them. Within the given time bounds, we tried to do the maximum possible extent about the technology. We try to experience. But then look at this particular question. There is something called comparable. There is a comparator. And you look at this. I think what I'll do is I'll stop now. We will continue this discussion and tomorrow as well. And meanwhile, you go through these questions, you try the samples, and we will what we will do is we will continue further. Okay. Okay, I need to go. I'll drop off now. Thank you so much. Bye. And come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow sharp by 5 o'clock. Sharp by 5 o'clock. We will start at 5 o'clock because I'm waiting for people. Even if I'm little late, if I'm late by 2-3 minutes, that's pretty much fine. You guys can wait for me. But if all of us, say if I wait for you guys, and we extend that session, it may be, I prefer that you guys come by sharp at 5 o'clock. I also will come by 5 o'clock. We'll start by 1 or 2 minutes delay. Right? Okay then. See you again tomorrow.
Thanks.
Bye.